So yeah, phase 2 is done in our playthrough here. After upgrading our coal power, unlocking a few research trees, and building out some basic logistics infrastructure, we put together a factory to automate smart plates, versatile framework, and automated wiring. But almost everything produced in this big glass box here is built using one of the 113 alternate recipes you can unlock from hard drives scattered around the game. It's definitely a little more complex than the basic iron, copper, and coal setup you'd use with standard recipes, but I'm going to walk you through everything that I did here, and at the end of the video, we're going to talk about whether it paid off or not. Okay, so this is the first floor of our Phase 2 parts factory. This is where we're making iron, copper, steel, ingots, and also concrete. More about concrete in a minute. So like I said, we're not using the standard recipes where we can help it here. We're going to be focusing mostly on alternate recipes. First up is our iron ingots, which would normally be 30 iron ore to 30 iron ingots in a smelter, but we're going to use the iron alloy ingot recipe, which is 40 iron ore and 10 copper ore to produce 75 iron ingots. So that's about a 50% increase overall. And we're doing, for copper, it's the same thing if you're doing it in the regular one, it's 30 to 30. But we're going to be using the copper alloy ingot recipe, which uses 50 copper and 50 iron ore to make 100 copper ingots. So that's something like a 230% increase, I think, something like that. And next we're going to be using the steel ingots, and normally you'd use the foundries for those, to using 45 iron ore and 45 coal to make 45 steel ingots per minute. But instead, we're going to be using the solid steel ingot recipe, which uses 40 iron ingots that we're already making, and 40 coal to get 60 steel ingots per minute per foundry. So in the end, we're getting about 50% more steel for a bit less raw resources there. Now things get a little bit more interesting here. So if we were doing this with just regular recipes, all we'd really need is iron, copper, and coal to produce all the parts for phase 2. But some of our alternate recipes that we're going to be using above added in concrete into the mix, which means that we have to get limestone, but we're going to need kind of a lot of concrete here, and I needed to sort of change things up a bit. So we only have a few alternate recipes available to us for concrete. Actually, we only have really one at this point in the game, because the other two require refineries to build. But the standard concrete recipe would be 45 limestone to make 15 concrete per minute inside of a constructor. So you need almost 600 limestone and at least a dozen constructors to make the 200 concrete per minute that we would need for this project. Instead, we're going to use two alternate recipes to cut down our limestone requirement by a little bit more than half, and just adding a little bit of quartz to it. So first, we're bringing in quartz and limestone into these foundries to make cheap silica, using 22.5 quartz and 37.5 limestone per minute to make 52.5 silica per minute in each foundry. Now, some of that silica is going to a dimensional depot for our cloud storage, but the rest is going to make fine concrete, which also uses 60 limestone and 15 silica to make 50 concrete in each foundry. So this setup only needs about 276 limestone and 25 quartz per minute. So you can see, cut the limestone requirement just about in half, while adding just a little bit of quartz. So that's basically the first floor, and now we're ready to head up to our second floor. So our second floor is where we actually start turning our ingots and compounds into sort of our first wave of usable parts: steel beams, steel pipes, iron plates, and wire. So wire is really the first of the standard recipe that we're going to be using here, because basically none of the alternates really make sense here. Wire is very simple. So first up on the logistics chain here, after the wire, is we're going to be making steel cast plates. So this recipe takes 15 iron ingots and 15 steel ingots to make 45 iron plates per minute. Compare that to the standard recipe, which is 30 iron ingots into a constructor making 20 plates. So we're getting a little more than double the output, about 2.25 plates per pair of ingots versus like 0.66 per ingot with the regular recipe. So these foundries are using the molded steel pipes and the molded steel beams recipes. So both of which make trade a little bit of extra steel and some concrete for a big jump in output, all on just a single machine, really. So molded pipes uses 50 steel ingots and 30 concrete to make 50 pipes per minute. The standard pipe recipe just takes 30 steel ingots, but only makes 20 pipes per minute. So, it's about 20 more ingots that we're using, but we get like 2.5 times the output. And you don't need the constructors there. That will take less machines in general. Then there's the molded beams, which uses 120 steel ingots and 80 concrete to make 45 beams per minute. A standard beam recipe takes 60 steel ingots to make 15 beams per minute. So, double the steel, but triple the output in that case. And again, we are spending some concrete here, but in return, we're just getting a higher throughput altogether and a bit of a tighter layout. So while these molded recipes are a bit more resource intensive and they add something we didn't need before, I think the trade-off is worth it in this case. So now that all these parts are ready to go, we can send them up the conveyor lifts to the third floor. Okay, so here we are on the third floor, and this is where things get a little bit more complicated, but it's also the last floor that's really relevant here, because after this, everything goes up to the assemblers that are making the space elevator parts, and then just loading them up in the space elevator. So I do want to point out, we do have 5 constructors over here that are using wire to make the cable that we need. This is the second standard recipe we have, because cable is very simple to make as well. But just over here, now we have this row of machines, and this one here, 2 of these machines are making stators, and that is our third and final regular recipe. It uses 15 steel pipes and 40 wire to make 5 stators per minute. These other 2 machines are making our rotors, and for this we're using an alternate. So the standard rotor recipe takes 20 iron rods and 100 screws to make 4 rotors per minute. But the steel rotor recipe that we're using uses 10 steel pipes and 30 wire to make 5 rotors per minute. So the output is basically nearly the same as the stator recipe. It's using the same inputs as well, so it just kind of flows better. It makes it easy. Plus, the alternate gets rid of screws, and I recommend that you should get rid of screws from your build wherever possible. The recipes that require screws usually need a lot of them, which means you could quickly end up needing a whole network of new constructors, especially if you don't have the alternate steel screw recipe handy. So, just don't even deal with it. After that, we're going to be taking our wire that isn't being used in the cable, and that's going to go over to create the stitched iron plates. So the stitched iron plate recipe uses 18.75 iron plates and 37.5 wire per minute to make 5.625 reinforced iron plates per minute. The standard recipe uses 30 iron plates and 60 screws to make just 5 reinforced plates per minute. So the stitch version gets rid of screws entirely, uses fewer iron plates, and gives us just a bit more of an output. So about half of those reinforced plates, along with some steel pipes, are going to head over to these 3 assemblers that are going to be making our steeled frame recipe. So that one takes 2 reinforced plates and 10 steel pipes to make 3 modular frames per minute. The regular modular frame recipe uses 3 reinforced iron plates and 12 iron rods to make 2 modular frames per minute. So, just not a good trade-off there. So that pretty much wraps up the third floor and everything made here: the stators, rotors, the stitched iron plates, and the modular frames. And those all are going to get sent upstairs along with some iron beams to make the smart plates, the versatile framework, and the automated wiring for the space elevator. So yeah, that's the whole factory here. By the way, I recommend after you complete the space elevator parts there, just reroute everything into into some sinks to get the points for it. I think it's gotta be like 30,000, I think, total points per minute that you can produce here with everything running properly. But anyway, let's talk about whether or not this actually did anything. So here I've uploaded 2 setups on satisfactorytools.com. One is a setup that uses just standard recipes only, and the other is basically our setup here. There might be like a few little discrepancies here, but I double checked the numbers from the Satisfactory modeler and they seem to match. So for coal, the standard setup would have used 393.75 coal units per minute. Our alternate recipe setup here uses about 208 per minute. So it's about 47% less using the alternate recipes that we did here. The iron ore would have been 713.25 per minute if we just used standard recipes. Under the alternate, we got that down to 234 per minute. So that's a 67% decrease. The copper ore didn't jump too far down, though. That stayed about the same. It was 180 per minute under the standard recipes. Under the alternate recipes, it would have been 146.6 per minute. So like 18.5% drop. Then overall, we actually would have used 683 megawatts of power. Using all these alternate recipes, we brought that down to about 620.7 megawatts, which is actually kind of interesting because that means that our original coal plant that we made would have been enough for this to be powered. Yeah, but only this, nothing else. So we didn't need to expand that. Anyway, now the one biggest change here was that, with these alternates, we had to bring in 276 limestone per minute and 25 quartz per minute. So those are two resources that we wouldn't have used otherwise. So we're talking about like how many raw materials we're bringing in, like how many units of them. Basically, our alternate build uses about 889.6 raw resources per minute, compared to 1,287 in the standard version. That iron ore was like a whole bunch of that. So overall, that's a 31% less resources used, even though we're pulling in that limestone and quartz. So yeah, it added a layer of complexity to everything, but it also saved us power and resources in the long run to do all this. So I think that is a win. And that's why you should probably use alternate recipes whenever you have a chance. Anyway, before I go, I did want to say the channel's been growing a little bit here lately. We got like 20 new subscribers and getting a lot more views per day. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been coming in and liking the videos and commenting. And yeah, I've enjoyed responding to all the comments and everything. So yeah, it's been a pretty pleasant experience so far. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been doing that. And if you'd like to leave a comment or like the video, feel free to do so. And of course, please feel free to subscribe or check out my other videos on the channel. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you.